This is an instructional video for drawing the welding symbols and the sketches for the assignment you just completed. So this is going to comprise of a couple different papers, or a couple different pages of graph paper, 4 to be exact. I'll go through those briefly and then I will jump into the details of them. So your first page is going to have a title box on it. At the bottom, it's going to be your name, and it's just going to say flat position. That's all the more complicated that we need to get for this first one. We're going to have the welding symbols on here with the arrows. Going to have a little bit of descriptions on what's actually going on, and we're going to have some couple notes up at the top. I'll come back to this page. This is actually the last page here. Your first page is going to be the simplest two welding drawings or sketches. We're going to have the butt weld drawn in an isometric view. This is not a true isometric view. We're just using regular graph paper, but it does get the point across. And then you'll just see a front view of every single drawing with the details on it. So with this drawing, you're going to have the isometric view with the welding notes on it up here with the welding symbols. Here we have a butt joint, and that's got the correct symbols. I'm going to go over that here in a minute. We have flat joint, and then edge joint with the correct symbol attached to it, and the notes off to the side of the little flag here. And as we go through each one, you're going to have the notes. We're not going to use the back side of the paper because it's going to make it complicated to see, because it's going to show through on the front. I'm going to jump back to the front page here. On the front page, and I'll zoom in so that way you can see a little bit better what I'm talking about. Okay, so we have these welding symbols. Okay, it is an arrow, and the way that we're going to draw all of them is it's going to come up at a 45-degree angle, and I can tell that because I'm going from one corner to the next corner, and then I'm going to draw it along. I would recommend using a ruler as a straight edge. Makes your life easier, makes it go quicker actually also. We will have this welding symbol attached to one of the two sides. For this assignment, the welding symbol is going to be attached to the arrow side. We're not going to do anything that's on the other side. You are not required to weld on both sides of the metal. So everything is going to be on the arrow side. So that's going to be the bottom side. But for this first page, we are going to have a lot more detail on it. And this is where we learn what or how these actually work. So when a symbol is drawn on the bottom, it means that we're pointing to the arrow side. When it's drawn on the top, it's pointing to the other side. So that's what this says. You're to copy exactly what I have drawn for every single page here. Over here, we have an object line. So you're just going to draw a straight, thick line and write object line. Then right below it, we have hidden line. These are dotted lines. So that would be, we don't use any hidden lines in this one, but I want you to know that's what they stand for. So if you are hiding an object, or you're seeing the back side of an object, we need to represent what it actually is. So that's how we do that, where you can't actually see it, but it is there. Here we have the leader line, and then we have a fillet weld, and it's on the arrow side. So that means it's on the side that the arrow is pointing to. That's the symbol for fillet weld, which is just a normal weld, welding two things together. This would be fillet side or fillet weld other side, so it's on the back side of where the arrow is actually touching or pointing to. This is a square groove weld. So in this assignment, I did not have you guys create any grooves where you had to grind an angle or cut an angle out, but we do have one of them that was a square groove weld. So that's what this symbol is indicating. For the next one, we have the edge weld, and this is a symbol for the edge weld. I'm going to jump back over here before I move my paper up. 1 box equals 1/4 inch. That's what we're representing here. Reference pages, and you do need to write this in here, and you do need to check out these pages. Reference pages 368, 369, and 374 in print reading for welders. That is the book that is up towards the desk, or up by my desk. It looks like this, print reading for welders. You need to open up to the correct pages, and it will give more details and explanations on the different things that we are doing right here. And it will help you make more sense. At least open up to those pages and find what we are drawing on those pages. Here I am diagramming what things are going to look like. So this would be a butt weld, how we would draw a butt weld. And we have the welding symbol to some degree written here. We have the arrow pointing to where we're going to do the weld. And we have other side. So if we draw the symbol on the top, so if it's a fillet weld or a edge weld, well, this wouldn't be an edge weld. If this is a square groove weld, like right here, if we're going to do the square groove weld on the other side, we draw it on the top side. If we are going to do it on this side, then this is where we draw it. And as a side note here, every single one of these for this assignment, I want to be 5 boxes wide. So this would be 1.25 inches. They're all going to be 5 boxes wide, so that way we can draw the symbol exactly in the middle. We're going to go up at the 45-degree angle, and we're going to have an arrow either on the edge of the box, so it makes a 90-degree intersection, or like what we have here, I have it slightly off of the intersection, so that way you can tell there's an actual arrow there. Moving down to the next one. So also, before I move on, other side, I'm pointing, that text is pointing to this side of the welding joint. So for the other side, this is a T-joint. This is how we draw up a T-joint, just looking straight at it. I have the welding symbols over here, or the leader line pointing towards it. This is 5 boxes. This would be, if we draw the symbol on the top side, it would be, we draw it on the top, and I notice here that I don't have that to 5. There we go. And this one I don't either. Oops. Arrow sides on the bottom. So if I draw the symbol here, it's meaning that this is what's getting the weld. If I draw the symbol on the top, it means that this side is getting the weld. On this lap weld or lap joint down here, this is how you draw a lap joint. If I only want 1 inch overhanging, then that's how I draw it. If I want 2 inches, then I'd slide this over. My welding leader line, other side, is going to mean that it's going to be on this side. So if I draw my symbol here, it's going to be here. If I draw my symbol on the bottom of this line, it's going to be where the line is pointing. So this is going to be the first page that you're going to diagram out. The next page, you're going to have, I'll zoom out and then I'll zoom back in. So we have the butt joint, and this is an isometric view. So what it means is it's giving us a different view, more of a 3D image of it, or more perspectives all at once. This is just a front view, so we're just looking at the pieces of metal like from one angle. We're not seeing the top, we're not seeing the sides, we're just seeing one side of the metal, and it is the front view. So to do this, and again, knowing that each box is 1/4 of an inch, our pieces of metal were supposed to be 1 inch by 2 inch. So quarter, 2 quarters, 3/4, 4/4. So that'd be 1 inch. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. That's 2 inches total. So I'm literally connecting. I'm going at a diagonal right here, just 45-degree angle, and I'm drawing a line. So I start here, and you guys can just kind of copy how I have my paper positioned. It will get easier the more we do this, and we will do more of this. The metal is 1/4 inch thick, so I go up 1/4 here, and then so I do the same thing, going back my 8 boxes, and it goes up for 1/4, and then I'm going to come back this way. This is an inch, so 1, 2, 3, 4/4. I can put a little dot, and then I'm going to draw a line, and again, using a ruler to draw a line, connecting your dots. Same thing there. So that gets me one piece of metal. I'm not using any hidden lines in this one. If you want to get fancy and you want to draw the back side of this metal and you want to draw the hidden lines across here, connecting all the dots so that way we can see all the edges, even on the back side when they're hidden, go ahead and do that. But you do not have to. Just minimum requirement is what you see. I go ahead and count out my boxes for the back side of this. It should look exactly how I have it. We have our welding symbol up here. So here's the leader line. I have my 5 boxes over. Right in the middle of this leader line, I'm going to draw my welding symbol. And I'm looking back on my first sheet here. This is going to be a square groove weld. So we're not actually grinding a groove into anything. More so that it's just 2 pieces of metal coming up flat next to each other. And that's what this symbol is indicating. And the symbol's drawn on the bottom, so that means it's on the side that the line is pointing to, or the arrow is pointing to. If I drew it on the top, it would mean that you'd weld on the back side of this also. We did not have to do that. Some of you did, but we did not have to. It was not the requirement. In the back side of this, or the tail side of this, we have the details. This is shielded metal arc welding. We're using a 6011 electrode. Doesn't matter what size, otherwise it would be indicated. And then we're going to weld this in the flat position. So that's noted there also. Now the front view of this, I count over my 4 boxes because it is 1 inch wide in this view. And then the next piece of metal is 1 inch wide and it's 1/4 inch tall. So that's one box up for the 1/4. Here we have it's a flat position and it's a butt joint. So we're just identifying how we welded it in multiple areas. Moving on to the next thing, we have an edge weld. The edge weld is 2 inches long and it's 1 inch tall. That's how the pieces of metal is. And then we put them side to side and we're going to create an edge weld. And going back to our first page, the symbol chart here, this is what it looks like. And that's an edge weld. So we have the edge weld drawn here right in the middle of this leader line. We have in the notes, shielded metal arc welding, 6011, flat position. And then looking at it from the front view, this is what it's going to look like. So it's 1 inch up, 1 inch over, and we have 2 of those next to each other. The title box on every single one of these needs to be in the lower left corner. You can go ahead and do that as your first thing so you don't accidentally mess up and get this too close to it. You're going to have your name and flat position. Move on to the next one. These are all going to have a lot of similarities, so please use the pause feature on this video to get more of the details. This is 1 inch wide, 1/4 inch tall. This is 1 inch wide, 1 inch tall is the position of the metal, 1/4 inch. Because of the graph paper, I just moved this over instead of centering this top piece of metal to where it didn't line up with the corners of the boxes. I just scooted it over just a little bit. I know we actually welded it to where it was centered on this bottom piece of metal. It doesn't lend itself easily to do that on this sheet of paper, so I just scooted it over. You guys do the same. We have our arrow line going up 2 boxes. This one going over 5. We have the fillet weld right here. That's what this one stands for, is a fillet weld. It's just putting 2 pieces of metal together and you're welding in the gap, okay, which would be right here. And this is arrow side, which is the bottom of the line. Shielded metal arc welding, 6011, horizontal, well, this is not horizontal position. I wrote that wrong. I'm going to mark that out there. It is flat position. And I did it again right there. I think I got in a hurry there. So this is flat position, flat position. This is the T-joint. Moving on to the next one. I do recommend doing this in pencil because, like you just saw that I had an error. If it's in pencil, you have an eraser. Don't push real hard, otherwise you can't fully erase and you might just have to restart just like you had pen. This bottom one, corner weld. You can draw this corner weld up in a lot of different ways. Check out the reference pages for how to draw it up differently. I drew it up like this, showing that there's no gap in between the 2 corners. I realize that some of you probably put a gap in there because it's much easier to weld when you just have a gap. So this weld symbol could be a fillet weld. It could also be a square groove weld. So this one technically would be a square groove weld because it's 2 pieces of metal coming together. There isn't a fillet weld going in there. So this one would technically be a square groove weld if you draw it up how I drew it up. But if you left a gap in between, so instead of having your 1-inch piece of metal come to the edge, if you have it come to here and you leave that little gap in there for you to fill, which was the easier way to weld it, then this would be a fillet weld, which is what that symbol is right there. But I drew it up as a square groove weld just because it's 2 pieces of metal coming together, and that's how it was welded. And it is pointed to this outside, so that's arrow side. Shielded metal arc welding, 6011, flat position. And this is a flat corner joint in the front view. Moving to the very last one, there's not very much on this page. We have a title block, and then we have a lap weld drawn out, 1 inch by 2 inches. This one I overlapped 2 boxes. It really doesn't matter how you overlap it. I just went half and half. We have our welding symbol up here. It is a fillet weld. It is on the arrow side. Shielded metal arc welding, 6011. It is flat position, flat, and then lap joint. And that is this assignment. If you have any questions, please first check out the reference pages. They will answer a lot of your questions, and then you can ask me.